Michael Popak with the Legal AF Hot Take. Somebody with the same name as a chief former detective for the Manhattan DA's office, another Jeremy Rosenberg, well, he had a bit of fun with Donald Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, who's trying to subpoena the real Jeremy Rosenberg, who resigned or retired from the Manhattan DA's office, where he was at one time the supervising rackets investigator or detective. The guy also has a very illustrious career in law enforcement, having been on the NYPD for about 20 years before that. He's a very well-known guy who's involved in a lot of Manhattan DA investigations that led to indictments, including that of Steve Bannon, which is currently on trial. But he no longer is employed by the Manhattan DA. Donald Trump wants to subpoena the real Jeremy Rosenberg to try to find out the relationship between Jeremy Rosenberg and Michael Cohen. Why? Because Donald Trump wants to try to discredit Michael Cohen before he even takes the stand against him in the Stormy Daniels hush money election interference case that starts on the 15th of April. Why are these lawyers scrambling a week before the trial to subpoena people they consider to be major? Because they're not very good at their job. There's no other way to put it. And why are they subpoenaing the wrong Jeremy Rosenberg? Well, let me tell you how we found out about it, and then I'll tell you what happened here. So apparently, in order to file a motion in the Manhattan DA's case, the Judge Merchan, because of prior filings by Donald Trump's lawyers that were meritless or in bad faith, has required them to ask his permission before they file a motion. We do it frequently in federal court as well. It's called a letter motion. You ask to file a motion, and the judge considers what you're asking for and decides whether he's going to give you the right to file that motion. Well, they're all hot and bothered because they believe that they got a snippy, insulting and insolent email from, quote, Jeremy Rosenberg, who they claim was the same Jeremy Rosenberg who had been the Manhattan DA's head of rackets investigation. And so this Jeremy Rosenberg, who they served with a subpoena in Brooklyn on a person who answered the door that was identified as Gloria Doe, D-O-E, and an email exchange apparently between Todd Blanche's office and this fake Jeremy Rosenberg resulted in the following exchange. We'll put it up on the board. He said in an email exchange, this Jeremy Rosenberg said, I don't have your files. P.S. The phone number you gave me is disconnected. And PPS, somebody that knows how to use the PPS, I'm keeping the $15. Because when you serve somebody with a subpoena, you have to give them a witness and an appearance fee. So this Jeremy Rosenberg said, I don't have your files. Your phone number's disconnected. I'm keeping the $15. The problem is that the Manhattan DA is having a little bit of fun with Donald Trump as well. So Matt Colangelo, who's one of the lead lawyers for the Manhattan DA's office that's going to start this trial, took time out of his busy trial preparation schedule and decided to poke some fun at Todd Blanche. So he said in his letter, we don't oppose the new motion that Donald Trump wants to file, a motion to compel Jeremy Rosenberg to respond to a subpoena, but we make the following notes. This is the wrong Jeremy Rosenberg. We spoke to Jeremy Rosenberg. The letter continues. Jeremy Rosenberg doesn't live in Brooklyn. Jeremy Rosenberg doesn't have a woman who answers the door. Jeremy Rosenberg is not at that email address. And Jeremy Rosenberg, who we've spoken to, has said he did not have an email exchange with Todd Blanche's office. Where the only thing to conclude is that Todd Blanche or his associates, somebody got duped by a real Jeremy Rosenberg, just the wrong Jeremy Rosenberg. Let's be frank. I live and work, in and around New York. There's plenty of Jeremy Rosenbergs. He's not hard to find the right one, by the way. It took me all of 30 seconds. I'm going to put it up on the board. We'll redact it a little bit. It took me all of 30 seconds to find his LinkedIn. I mean, the real Jeremy Rosenberg, not that hard. He's listed under financial intelligence and risk mitigation. He's a consultant as an independent consultant for the last 3 months. And before that, for 17 years, he's listed here on LinkedIn as the supervising investigator, New York County District Attorney. That's the Manhattan DA, major financial crime investigations. He was also a Homeland Security investigator. He was a detective for the NYPD from 1982 to 2002. Very highly regarded. Now, there's a little bit of backstory about Rosenberg and the relationship with Cohen. Apparently, the police department was, or the Manhattan DA was investigating how close that relationship was. And at one point, it was reported that the real Jeremy Rosenberg was suspended, had to turn in his gun and his badge for a bit while they got to the bottom of the relationship. Now, the lawyer at the time for Michael Cohen swore that any interaction that they had, Cohen, the lawyer for Cohen, and Jeremy Rosenberg, was completely on the up and up and professional. But of course, Donald Trump wants to destabilize, undermine, and try to eventually cross-examine Michael Cohen. And they want to get to the bottom of the relationship between Jeremy Rosenberg and Michael Cohen. Now, anything that Jeremy Rosenberg did professionally while he was at the Manhattan DA's office, they would have already turned over. You know, his official emails and texts would have already been turned over, because that would have been a responsibility of the Manhattan DA. Here, they're fishing around at the last minute on the Trump side for anything in Rosenberg's personal email or personal text messages that shows some sort of bias by the Manhattan DA's office because they're siding with Michael Cohen. In other words, they're going to try to argue, as they argued in this letter request to file a motion, that the information that's in the real Jeremy Rosenberg's hands, or what we call care, custody, and control, shows bias, motive, and hostility, and that it undermines the credibility of the investigation against Donald Trump, right? They're trying to have enough to argue in front of a jury that the Manhattan DA has a vendetta, has animus against Donald Trump, and they think if they go rooting around Jeremy Rosenberg's phone or email or other things, they'll find it. The problem is they so bought hook, line, and sinker that they were talking to, when they were talking to the wrong Jeremy Rosenberg, that they actually said and attached the email that I read from, where the guy said, not Jeremy Rosenberg, the one we care about. He said, I don't have your files. The phone number's disconnected, and I'm keeping the $15. They said, oh, this is Jeremy Rosenberg shows a disrespect for law enforcement after he'd been in law enforcement for over 37 years. You know, it's a flippant attitude that shouldn't be countenanced by this court. He's flippant and dismissive over the subpoena, providing other grounds. And Matt Colangelo for the Manhattan DA fired back with, firstly, it's the wrong Rosenberg. We've contacted the right one, and he never got your subpoena, nor is he emailing with you. And lastly, we don't oppose your motion. You want to file the motion to compel a response from the fake Jeremy Rosenberg? Go ahead. We think there should be a 5-page limit, and we'll respond in kind. So that's the fun that Matt Colangelo decided to have. Look, it happens. You know, oftentimes when I'm a trial lawyer on a case, I'll put an associate or a paralegal in charge of finding witnesses. And sometimes they fall in love with an address or an email and even start an exchange with it's happened to me too, like the wrong guy, until I look into it and I go, wait a minute. Who is this person? Where'd you get that email from? Where's that phone number from? Let me speak to this person in person or something like that. It's not hard for a proper background search for you to find somebody at the highest level who's in public service for as long as Jeremy Rosenberg, who's on the internet. You can find him with clicks. Reach out through LinkedIn. Ask him, to coordinate a subpoena service. I'm sure he would do it. Work through the Manhattan DA's office. Say, hey, we want to subpoena one of your former senior investigators. Will you contact him and make arrangements for the service of the subpoena? But they don't do that. The Trump people, they make their own rules. And oftentimes, as a result, they fall into easily set traps. I mean, I don't think the fake Jeremy Rosenberg or the real Jeremy Rosenberg, that's not the right one, I think is a better way to say it. I mean, he's just having fun at Trump and Blanche's expense. The guy, and so is the Manhattan DA. So look, it's happened before. Alina Habba did the exact same thing. Alina Habba, during a prior trial representing Donald Trump, got all hot and bothered about somebody on a witness list who had a very common last name in New York, and swore that that was the right person when, of course, it was not. So this is a common rookie mistake that's done by Donald Trump's lawyers. I don't know what it is about representing him, but it makes lawyers that used to have very good reputations just act amateurish in the defense of Trump. And that's where we have right now with the Jeremy Rosenberg affair. We'll continue to follow everything that happens pre-trial leading up to the April 15th trial, first criminal trial of Donald Trump. It'll be in Manhattan, led by the Manhattan DA's office, prosecuting him for the business record fraud and election interference arising out of the Stormy Daniels hush money cover-up. Lead witnesses there, yes, Michael Cohen. David Pecker of the, yes, that's his name, the former editor-in-chief of the National Enquirer, his boss, the publisher of the National Enquirer, people who got paid off just like Stormy Daniels, like Karen McDougal, who had been a Playboy playmate and had an affair with Donald Trump. Stormy Daniels is going to testify because she got paid off. Alan Weisselberg better testify, truthfully, because he's already been convicted twice of crimes, Donald Trump's former chief financial officer. And we'll follow it all on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF right here. Hot takes just like this one, even ones late at night. So if you like what we're doing here, follow us on Legal AF. Join our podcast. Come on Wednesday and Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube from MeidasTouch. Find out why we call it Legal AF. It's not what you think, or it is what you think. And then we put it on audio podcast platforms of your choice. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up and leave a message. Interacting with me here helps with the ratings. It really is a way to vote for the content that you enjoy. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popak reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.